This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialist.
And Catherine Smith from Build Bright. Good morning. Bright early this morning.
Very early, but we've got a special guest with us today, Andrew Booth from ABBC Building Inspectors.
Good morning, everybody.
How are you?
Yeah, very well.
Do we like the new logos and t-shirts finally got?
Yeah. Sharp, love the strong orange.
That's it. So today we want to talk about building inspectors, what their role is, the regulations and all the good and bads, because, you know, there are some horror stories about building inspectors. And Andrew, I know that I certainly work a lot with you, so and really recommend your services, so that's why we thought you'd come on and tell you what's good and bad and what to look out for, especially if you're building, especially for your investors. If you're not sure, you can't go over here all the time, that extra peace of mind is having that building inspector, and the money you pay is not a lot for what you actually get, but if you find a good one.
Well, and that's what Eastern States investors don't appreciate, is that it's highly regulated in the Eastern States. Yeah. Both building inspectors have to be qualified and regulated and licensed. Yeah. Doesn't happen here. And also regular inspections at various stages happens in the Eastern States, doesn't happen here.
Yeah, I think I'd love to. I think we should really unpack that part later on, because that's some really important stuff, that like why you need to pick a good one, and that's probably one of the best reasons. But I'd love to tell a lot about you, how you got into the building inspector world, building world, and how you came out to be here.
Well, I had a varied career. I started originally, I've got an engineering degree, a civil engineering degree. I started in actually multi-storey construction in Perth, but did a variety of projects, shopping centres, industrial, high-rise. So I had a good commercial background. And then I went to work for a industrial shed builder, which was part of the Roofmart group. And they very quickly we found that that was competing against a lot of their possible customers that weren't buying from Roofmart. So we ended up selling that company, and they had I basically got into the reinforcement business. They'd bought a mesh machine, and they needed to kick their mesh sales off. So I developed that up. And after about 4 or 5 years of building that, I had got bored with doing that and went out and got my builder's registration, got into building houses for clients, not for myself, for clients. And after a while, in the 5th year, we got cleaned up by a rather nasty client, refused to pay the bill, got into a huge dispute. It was an overseas buyer. He had an architect working for him, and his architect had authorised a whole lot of work that he hadn't approved. So that was the reason for the dispute. So I ended up packing that up. But in the meantime, times were a bit tough then, and my wife saw an advert for building inspector. I didn't see it. So she applied to Mark Smith at Housespect and so I got a phone call from Mark saying, "Hey, do you want to be a building inspector?" And I said, "Well, I know absolutely what I was talking about." But I'd done a few inspections for people along the way by then, and sat down with Mark, and I've started working for Housespect on Saturdays, did whatever was going on Saturdays, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, and then eventually went full-time with them. So I was 10 years with the Housespect, and then I went to do inspections for myself. So I think I've got a fairly good background in commercial, residential, manufacturing. Like Roofmart Group does roller doors, fascias, metal roofing, door frames. I know how the products are made as well as, seeing the finished product. And I think that helps to put some of the clients in perspective. Walking around a house the other day with a client at practical completion, and they were wondering why the fascia ends weren't quite meeting the way they are, and it's because of the product. It's because they're using, it was a BGC house, and they were using a cheaper 0.5 0.5 fascia rather than the 0.8 fascia, and when they're cutting the fascia in the factory, it flares.
Yep.
And so you can't quite get a really good joint. Fascias.
I mean, that experience that you've got there is certainly one of the reasons where we've worked together for so long. Just with, I know that when I put my clients in touch with you, that this the product and service that they get, and the builders also appreciate what you do, because I mean, we're not there to shop the builders, we're there to make sure the client gets the best product. And the builders that we work with, me and Catherine, are happy to see building inspector reports if they're legit and good. Like, we've had some come through and like, oh, they didn't have the waterproofing, and yeah, the bricks aren't even on site, so you can't get the what, like things like that. We're like, this is where we're going. You don't want to use this person. You know, these are just somebody ticking and flicking a little run sheet and trying to justify it. And then we've got 128 faults. You go, well, 127 of them haven't happened because we've not. Yeah. Oh, so that's why.
It just also causes a lot of like stress for the clients when they're writing things that aren't valid yet. You know, but I had one where it said wall incomplete, and I'm like, well, yeah, we haven't finished the bricklaying. You know, it's just an obvious thing. So then your client is like, have they finished the wall? Have they finished the wall? And you're like, well, yeah, they haven't finished the bricklaying at all in the house. You know,
I mean, the exact same one was the one down in Mandalgallup that you done probably just last week for Jake.
Yep.
I mean, two little things. Straight to move homes, so we're building homes, and Dan's like, yeah, great, thanks, Tony, we'll get that fixed immediately. Like, no issues. Like, there's no. Well, he said, I send the full report, and Dan is like, no, great. He's happy that's like someone independent's checking their work, and it's past it. We've got one little weep hole and some like real simple stuff to fix it. It's probably just been missed of that, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. But you're also willing to like, no, this is wrong, this is right. And I went to a house the other day, and they'd put the door for the bathroom on the steel framing round the wrong way. I was like, that's not going to work. You on it, and like I messaged the company. I was like, this is wrong. They're like, yep. Next day it was fixed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the stuff that you got to be kind of careful with and look at. But yeah, I have to say that the service that you gave, and all my clients have been really happy with for the level and that, you know.
I think it's all about relationships. It's all about preserving the relationships. Like you guys have a good relationship with your client, and then you're basically handing your baby over to the builder.
Yeah.
And we're in the business of trying to make sure that relationship also goes well. You know, we're sort of like a marriage counsellor for that relationship, in that, you know, the builder may forget something. I mean, the builder's got an awful lot to think about as well, and he's trying to control trades and sequence trades and just get trades to turn up sometimes. Yeah. So things do sometimes go astray, and it's up to us to put it into perspective for the client to say, hey, actually what they're building is pretty good standard, you know, or it's excellent standard where, yes, there's something missing or there's something that isn't quite right, but it's easily rectified.
Yeah, and we've had it there as well, like you've got there before the site supervisor had a chance to check the work, and then you've put the report in and went, and again, it's just that, hey, we found these things. You know, the builder, as long as you got the relationship, they don't get their back up the supervisor hasn't been there. Well, cool, here's the report, get them to check these things and work together as a, you know what I mean? Like, so what I'm trying to say to clients is, yeah, you've got your inspector in there before the supervisor, that's fine, but we've got to understand, we've not given the chance to the supervisor going in, because a lot of times the supervisor are going to start fixing things and go, no, fix that, that's rubbish. You know, that's why the good supervisors are still at the same companies, because they do that stuff. But it's about, again, education, and when we're coming in, and I think there's a lot of things, especially in WA, when they're dropping $500,000 or $550,000, they're so stressed about it, which is understandable. Yeah. And then if the defences are up with the land agent, with the builder, with us, with you, but hold on, if you get the right, you know, this is what we do, we trust us, we've got the right group around us that we actually absolutely trust to get the job done for us, you know, and that's why.
So, for the people listening that might not really understand your role, how would you explain it?
It's our role to make sure that what's being built is what the client's expecting, you know, and the clients have gone to great pains to prepare a set of documents that describe what they're expecting. But it's also that much more than that. Behind the documents is things like the Building Code of Australia, the Australian standards, the WA Guide to Standards and Tolerances. You know, we're trying to make sure that it's not only looks like what it's represented on the plan, but it's also going to function well. It's also going to be good quality. The detailing is done quite right. You know, you can only put so much on a plan.
Yeah.
And you've got real hierarchy of delegation. You know, it's the client to the builder to the supervisor to the trade to his actual guy. You know, and it may be an apprentice that's working on your job. It's a matter of checking to make sure that lowest common denominator has actually done what they're supposed to do. And if they're not, I believe our reports are more education rather than big stick to whack people with.
Yep.
You know, there's no point in whacking people in this sort of environment. It's all about bringing. It's the carrot or the stick. You know, it's a carrot. It's to say, hey, this is what we were looking for, and unfortunately, maybe you haven't delivered that on this particular house or this particular instance. But here's a chance to go back, do it properly, and then you can learn from that experience and carry that through on all your other jobs.
Yeah.
The industry is really suffering at the moment from education. You know, there's a lot of products that are being used now that aren't traditional products. A lot of the framed type of construction is totally different, and some of the trades are picking those up and going, oh, well, it's similar to what I did here or similar to that, but they're not actually reading the manual and going, oh, crap, I was supposed to have fixings at 200 centres, not 400 centres, or I was supposed to prep it with a particular type of flashing, or they're not thinking through things necessarily the way that they should be. And certainly they're finding, because everything's hot to trot at the moment, the time to do that too.
Yeah.
You know, the time, you know, a couple of years ago, they would have the time to finish the job, stand back from the job. Is that okay? Yep, that's okay. Move on to the next one. Now it's wham, bam, let's get the job done. It's done. Right, boys, pack up, let's go. Then there's not that final checking necessarily.
I think that's what's happening. Well, I don't think I know that's what's happened because the amount of trades and there are substandard trades out there. This is what I right now coming at the end of this big building boom, and I don't think the boom's actually finished. It's just not going to be as mental. Is we need a building inspector in there to cover your arse. Like it's, you know, we trust our builders, but even still, time pressures on some, even our builders, they might not try to cut a corner, but use a substandard or a trade they've never used before that they don't trust, and that's where we see some sort of issues with that happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they're bound to be using trades that they've never used before, just to try and satisfy the volume of work there is, and particularly, as that pig in the python is moving along. It used to be bricklayers, it's now ceiling fixers, cabinet makers, tilers. They're all, the waterproofing guys. Waterproofing guys are under a huge amount of pressure as well.
Yeah.
One company I know is doing 70 a week.
It's
a lot of work.
Yeah. There's going to be mistakes made, right? At that point. So what do you like? Obviously, before we go into what we're looking for a building inspector, what do you provide? What's the service like? So I engage you as a client. What do I get from you?
So what you would get is a series of inspections at various stages. Usually it's tied to your progress claims. So that would be slab down, brickwork complete, roof on, waterproofing or / lockup, and then the final practical completion. For some clients that want to engage us before they sign up with a builder, before they go to pre-start, we actually offer a really good service to check through the plans and provide a bit of feedback on what people may not have thought about. And I'll give you for instance, I had a client in Wellard who was building near the train line, and the toilet was oriented towards the train line, and she had a full height window with clear glass facing the tracks. And I said to her, are you a bit of an exhibitionist? And she said, no. And I said, well, why is the toilet facing why was there a full height window with clear glass? Oh, yeah. So quickly, we changed it to half height window and obscure glass. And but it's just simple things like that we can look at the plans. Some plans aren't familiar. Like you're looking at a 2D plan and transposing that into 3D. They can't quite work it out. Sometimes the switching, they haven't worked out. Getting up in the middle of the night, can I turn on a light to go from here to the kids' bathroom at the other end of the house? Yeah. Sometimes there might be a switch missing in terms of a two-way to get you to where you got to go, and vice versa. On the way back, turn it all off, get back into bed. So we would because we're used to working with those plans, we'd offer that service to go through and do those sorts of things. The other thing that we would point out probably would be when clients are building a certain dollar value of house, if they're building a more expensive house, sometimes the builder will take out obvious things that just to keep the price down. The sales guys, they get hypersensitive about the actual dollar value rather than providing a house that is necessarily going to fit the dollars. For example, they might not have skirtings in it. It might be an $800,000 house, but it's got no skirtings in it. For an extra $1,500, $2,000, why wouldn't you put skirtings in it? So that when it comes to resale and somebody walks in to buy this house that's 1.3, 1.4 million, and they're looking around and going,
Scotland,
there's no skirtings. We've got a bog standard cornice up there, for a little bit of extra more money, and maybe you can save that money somewhere else, through our analysis of the plans. But you can look at it and go, actually, I would actually put things in rather than taking things out or changing things necessarily. It's making sure that your specification is matching the type of house that it is.
And going back to the thing where you talk about, like plate high, the process clearance. Like my advice is always to get it done at every stage, right? But sometimes that can be quite expensive. It can jump up a couple of grand at that point. You're looking at maybe a little bit more, right?
You're looking at $600 to $700 per stage, and maybe a little bit more for your practical completion. We can certainly package it up whichever way the clients want. And for some clients, that means they only have one. And realistically, usually I suppose the practical completion would be the obvious one, but no, I'd actually, if I was just doing one, I would be doing it at brickwork, to set the tone for the builder, to make the builder worry that every subsequent stage is going to be inspected. You're psychologically setting up the...
So if we were to ask you, like taking your business hat off and go, what would be the, if you go, people work on a bit of a budget, what would be the value when you go, like, I would say get 3 done and do it at the stages, or get 4 done, 4 checks? What would be you say, like, these are the ones that would be the best, like, outside of getting it all done?
Well, I think it's always good to make sure that your structure is right, and dressing it up later is not too difficult, providing your plastering's okay. But I would think brickwork, roof on, and practical completion would be your base.
You really would focus on.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. Slab. Yes, slab. I think it's more important just to make sure it's on the right block.
Placed at the right space on the block. I've had to.
No. Well, there's that, but also getting it actually on the right block. I did have one that, it was jinxed from the start.
On a whole wrong block.
Well, the client was onto it, and he was ringing the sales guy saying, I think there's something wrong with my house, and this well, actually, funny story. It wasn't his builder. It was another builder who came and built on his block. So he was ringing the sales guy and he's saying, I think there's something wrong. And they said, and the sales guy was saying, these guys are very professional. They wouldn't make a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
He said, but it's marked out with a bay window out the front. I can't believe they'd do that. And so then he went down at 6 o'clock in the morning to see the concreters, and the concreters told him where to go in no uncertain terms. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and what would you know? And anyway, it was supposed to be 3 doors down.
No, it's a call I just don't want to take. No, so what we know, like what a building inspector sort of does now, when we could go on for hours and hours, but just the kind of top line sort of stuff for our listeners. But what is there any qualifications, or like what do you look for in a building inspector? What qualifications? What are big yeses? What are big no's? Sort of things. If you're going out there to pick, obviously anyone comes through us will be using you. But if people going out there trying to look for a building inspector, what would be like? Hey, these are the qualifications you look for, because we know that we're not regulated, right?
Well, and that's part of the problem. Yeah, there is no regulation for building inspectors in Western Australia. You have to be licensed to be a builder, but you don't have to be licensed to be a building inspector.
Mad.
And I suppose what you're looking for is one of the professional bodies that regulates or is trying to regulate what's going on. I've had a lot to do with two of those bodies. The BIA, which is more about professional excellence for building inspectors, but also Inspect WA, which is the industry body now for building inspectors. And we're trying to get ahead of the game. Like the Building Commission's saying a lot, but they're not doing a lot in terms of actually regulating building inspectors. They are starting to regulate engineers will be first cab off the rank, and then architects. And I think they want to set the framework for what regulation looks like for these professions. But it's going to include things like continuous professional development. It's going to include minimum qualifications. It's going to include a certain amount of experience. And so we're trying to build that in before the regulations happen. We're trying to hand it over to Building and Energy and say, well, here's what our guys have to do to be members, and that is be a registered builder.
Yep. Which I think speaks for itself, right? You should be a registered builder if you're inspecting houses. Sure.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's only fair for the builders too. Like to have somebody unqualified picking my work as a registered builder, it's just not on. It's, it's like for like, you can imagine me criticising what a doctor's doing.
Yeah.
Well, for a start, my opinion is not going to carry much weight if I haven't got the qualifications to back it up. So, registered builder for a start. A certain amount of experience. I mean, in Inspect WA, we want to see full-time building inspectors that have been doing it for at least 12 months. And that's either on their own or working for another building inspector. Professional indemnity insurance. Everybody makes mistakes. You need to have some sort of level of insurance behind you just in case you make a real clanger. So we all have professional indemnity insurance, and abiding by a code of ethics as well. Because our industry, because this is the Wild West, and because we are in an industry that's unregulated, there are practices that have arisen. We in the industry that we're trying to drum out. We don't. And I'm not thinking particularly of the under construction market. It's more the pre-purchase market. Yep. But we don't accept backhanders from people. We don't give backhanders to people. We have to tell it how it is. We're employed by one of the parties to a transaction, but it's our job to tell it down the line. If the builder's doing a good job, the builder's doing a good job. No matter what the client may think of how that's going, it's our job to say, well, actually, that meets industry standard, and that is a good job. So
I think having a building ticket or building license is a must, right? So that'd be the things I'd be asking building inspector. What's your experience? Like, because I know we can just go out tomorrow and become building inspectors, start a business, and away we go. And that's what you got to really be careful about. Is if you're not sure, check them on socials, check them on their website. Have they got the experience? Ask them the questions. Are they part of the BIA? Have they heard of it?
Correct. Go through the BIA and the Inspect WA websites and check out
the
members there. You can see all the members there, and you can see what their experience is.
So that's like telling you, like for listeners here, telling you there's a group of building inspectors that are trying to get themselves regulated. You can't be more accountable to your craft and actually seeking out to become regulated, which I think that's what another reason why I love working with you, and is you're trying to seek that. Like, this is not about screwing the clients over or getting money. This is about actually helping the clients and do a good job, and then everything else comes and sorts itself out. So no, I think that's noble, if that's the word you want to look for.
Well, I think in both those sorts of industries, we are the only ones that are sitting there helping the client. We're only, in the pre-purchase market, the agent is helping the seller. Your settlement agent is helping you, but your settlement agent has never been to the property. They're purely looking at the transaction on paper. And if you haven't even got your ducks in a row in terms of getting the right sort of clauses in for the inspection, you're at the mercy of what the agent is trying to do.
Yep.
And the same goes in construction. The builder has usually large resources behind them. there's nobody actually in your corner saying, actually, we need to have a change about this.
And again, that's another reason for this whole podcast and what me and Kath are trying to push out there is trying to get that confidence back in the building market, because there's not all builders are bad. There's some really great builders that have done the right thing through the C word, that whole 2 years of nonsense that we had, trying to keep themselves afloat and make sure the clients weren't getting through it. And we know for a fact there's builders have broken even and lost a lot of money just so that they can service the clients, and they were at the mercy, as we know, of all this stuff. But I think the big question I suppose for you would be is, what would be if I was just outside the BIA, what would be the biggest thing that you think that building inspectors should be qualified or trained in? Like, what's the big thing they're like the number one going, no, this is like a must?
Oh, I think building inspectors have to be actually jack of all trades. We have to know so many different parts of the industry. I think that's where the builders suffer with their supervisors. Like, supervisors don't have to be registered builders either.
Yeah,
and they're usually pulled from a trade. They're a bricklayer or they're a painter or whatever. So they know their trade really well, but they don't have a good grounding in the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and I think that's why I think, the fair to say is that why the building license, getting one of them is actually, because you need to know everything to get a builder's license. You came from something, it's probably a fair. So I think, probably fair to say that the building inspectors should be regulated. They're highly regulated to a level where they understand everything, and if they can't cut it, then you're not deserving of the money that we're paying, because it's not dollars that we're just throwing, it's a good bit of money. Yeah, but if you're getting the right building inspector, then it's value for what you get, right?
That's a lot of my clients will even say, should I get a building inspector? That's generally like a first sort of question, because they're sort of like, they have a sort of a grasp of what it is because someone's already built before and that kind of thing. But then they're like, well, do I need one? Do I have to spend a couple of grand to have that extra pair of hands? But I would say probably 60% of my clients will take a building inspector, particularly if they're like FIFO or say not in the States, sort of East Coast, overseas, things like that, just to have someone go through with a fine-tooth comb so they have that sort of peace of mind, things that, tracking how they should. But then there's 40% that are like, you know what, I trust the builder you've selected and that kind of thing. With those ones, I generally will go out on site more just to sort of cross-check and things like that. But I would say there is, a majority of people that will select a building inspector, just particularly because they are hesitant with, what builders say as well, with what the media is saying, things like that. They just want that sort of peace of mind.
I think some things, and those 40% you talk about, Catherine, as well, they don't know that you need a building inspector or there's that available.
Yeah, and if it's just not been highlighted by whoever, because a lot of builders, because I've worked directly with builders in the past, and they don't push to obviously advocate to get one, because then, of course, then there's more, I guess, headaches for them. So there are builders that generally say to their sales team, please don't advocate to get another pair of hands or eyes to look over it.
Interestingly, it is moving the opposite way.
Yeah.
There are, there's certainly, one of the major building groups in Perth has gone that way to deliberately put in place their own independent inspector. They don't, I don't know why they don't publicise it, but they don't publicise it to their clients. But because they've only got one guy doing it, they can't possibly cover all the houses, all the stages. So they're sampling what they're doing, but it's giving them good feedback in what they're doing. Another progressive builder, which I won't name, but has decided to use us to do every house at roof on, just to make sure that, and we're doing brickwork and roof at the same time, just to make sure that every house that they sell is at least structurally sound and got to a certain standard. And to be honest, I actually think it's not money for jam, but it's the caliber of the builder is such that we are expecting not to find too much wrong either. It's good business for us and it's good business for them.
Yeah. I feel like that what they're saying is they back their product.
Absolutely.
They back their team. And that's something that should be, advertised, because, people always say, do I need a building inspector because I'm using a broker? And I said, look, I back our builders. That's why I select those builders to work with. In saying that, do get a building inspector because I'm confident that you're going to get a positive outcome from it. You know what I mean? You're not going to find like crazy situations and things like that, but at least you have peace of mind that although I back my builder, you will too, you know.
It's like, I always say to clients as well when they're talking building inspectors, or if they don't want to use our services, and you know the client's maybe looking at talking to the builders, which is fine, ask them the question, how do you feel about building inspectors? And if they're like, oh, we don't need them, and start going away from using them, I'd be a bit worried about that. Have a builder that's go, yeah, we don't feel we need them, but we welcome them to come and have a look, because that way they're confident they're what they've got, and they're not that scared to show it. But if they're really against building inspectors, that'd be not a yellow flag, that'd be a red flag for me. That really would be, we'll use our building inspector, use independent, go independent so that it's completely, so you're in control of that building inspector. They're working for you to help support the build with the builder. That's what it should be.
Well, and that's what we've stressed to the builder that we're actually working with, is that, hey, we're still independent. We'll just tell it like it is. Good. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad.
I think with you as well, though, Andrew, you've got such a good brand behind you as well, so you have such a good brand behind you that I think that it speaks for itself for that as well. So no, really, and that's what I would really be encouraging everyone to do, like a building inspector, just to give you that peace of mind, especially with how we've come out the craziness. Again, we support our builders, but yeah, I don't see any issue, and our builders don't hate the building inspectors. They embrace it, which is really good. And if they don't, we'd be having a conversation offline with the builder going, why are you not wanting a building inspector in there?
I think that's because the building inspection market has changed. It's changed dramatically. Like in my working lifetime, when I first started, it was probably 1 in 100 houses were being inspected.
Yeah, well.
And there was great antipathy towards the building inspector because it was like, oh, what do you know? And
why are you here?
And why are you here? We build a good product. 3-4 years ago, it was about 20-25%. Today, it's probably 80% people are getting a building inspection. The whole market has really flipped on its head. When we were at the Perth Home Show a couple of weeks ago, Inspect WA, the Industry Association had a stand there. We were absolutely killed with them. The number of people that they were there building and they were looking for products, but they were also going, I need a building inspection as well.
Yeah.
And we had 3 or 4 guys on the stand, and we still had people. They were all talking to customers, and you had people walking behind you, grabbing brochures. It was just mental.
Good.
Good. It's great.
Cool. All right. So to wrap up, we're going to do our hot seat questions, which I know you're so excited about. But we like to have a little fun at the end, just to make our guests uncomfortable. So don't worry, they're nothing too scary. Okay. So they're just quick answers.
Okay.
And then people will judge you on this and then may or may not hire you. So pressure's on, Andrew.
Nice states.
Okay. North or south of the river?
South, definitely.
Oh, we are both Southies. We always get the Southies.
Everything's got best together.
Eagles or Dockers?
Blues.
Oh, Carlton boy.
Absolutely.
Oh, my son loves Charlie Curnow. And we call him Scrunchy because he's got scrunchy hair. Rottnest or Dunsborough? It's a tough one.
Probably Rottnest. Yeah, I'm there at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Dunsborough, for all our customers who are building down that way, Margaret River, Yellingup, Dunsborough, Bunbury, Donnybrook, all through there.
So much good red wine.
We inspect all the way through there as well.
Yeah.
So much good red wine down there. Oh, that's red wine.
If you were to invest in a suburb, which suburb would you choose right now?
Right now, that is a good question. Probably being south of the river, boy, probably somewhere like Rossmoyne or Shelley or Bull Creek, even.
Yeah.
Bull Creek's very undervalued. Somewhere through there that's established area, close to the city, slightly undervalued. Willerton, it's still slightly undervalued. I reckon that's...
It's undervalued, but it's hard to get into because everyone wants to be in the catchment area for the school.
And Willerton Senior High is extremely...
We've got quite a few clients like, I want to be in this area, just like...
You always have a list of clients just waiting for Willerton. Rossmore, I think you're looking at about 1.2 almost now.
Well, it's just the land. The land's like went up probably 200-300 grand in the last 2 years.
Yeah. And last question, but always the most controversial for guests, is if you were going to build today, which builder would you choose?
Aveling.
Aveling, okay.
Aveling Homes.
There you go.
There you go.
Good builders. Very good.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Andrew. A lot of value, which we knew you would bring. So that, happy to have you on.
To reiterate, it's ABBC Building Inspections. That's your company. Yeah, check them out. If not, hit me and Catherine up as always, and we can link in with Andrew. No problem. But as always, like, share, comment, follow, all the good stuff, and we will chat to you soon. Thanks.
Later. Bye.